Menton, please state your full name.
Robert S. Minton, M-I-N-T-O-N.
And what's your address, please?
137 Fremont Road, Sandown, New Hampshire.
Is it correct you are a member of the critical movement against the Church of Scientology?
That's correct.
And is there any question that you are an outspoken opponent of the Church of Scientology, flag service organization, and its affiliated corporations and organizations?
No, sir.
How did you get involved in this issue?
Very much like the testimony we've heard here from Keith Henson and Grady Ward, being internet activists who were outraged about Scientology's attack on free speech by means of Helena Coburn attempting to remove this discussion group from the internet, where critics of Scientology gathered to discuss their experiences while they were in the church.
And how long ago was it?
That was at the beginning of 1995.
What is your connection or relationship to the Lisa McPherson Trust?
I am the chairman of the board. I was the original incorporator of the company. I continue in the capacity as chairman of the board, but not a stockholder in the company.
Why did you establish the Lisa McPherson Trust to begin with?
Well, the Church of Scientology had basically destroyed all previous opposition that existed to Scientology in the anti-cult area, namely the Cult Awareness Network, which was a national network that opposed not only Scientology but many other cults. And through a bizarre series of events, the Church of Scientology now owns the Cult Awareness Network and answers the phone as the Cult Awareness Network, offering help to people who supposedly are having trouble in cults.
Now, you've heard, I believe, from Ms. Crook's testimony and other testimony and evidence we've heard here concerning the actual purpose of Lisa McPherson Trust. In your own words, what is that purpose?
Well, the generalities of it are to expose the abusive and deceptive practices of the Church of Scientology. Ms. Brooks hit several of the highlights. She forgot a few important ones, I believe. The main important one being to help the victims of Scientology recover from the abusive experiences they had while within the church. And this is a very long and complicated process to help someone, for example, like Tori Gazazian, who was for 30 years in this organization and is basically dumped out in an unceremonious wheelbarrow into the streets. The other key component is helping people get their money back from the Church of Scientology. This is people who wish to get back in the millions of dollars, or in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, or $50,000, whatever the case may be. We work with them to get that money back so that they can help rebuild their lives, because typically they've given all their money to the church by the time the church is finished with them.
Now, there have been several questions about you giving money to other parties in this case. Why have you funded the critics of the Church of Scientology?
Well, many of the critics we're talking about are people who had been in Scientology. They got out, basically had no money. They were fighting initially in the court system to try to get some redress against what happened to them in Scientology. Some became subjects of the Scientology fair game policies and were sued by the church. We heard in the case of Mr. Lerma, he was sued by the church. He had a couple of years worth of litigation going on. And it's like, being here in Judge Pinnock's courtroom for the last 7 days. There's not a whole lot you can do with the rest of your life when you're in court all the time, or when and many of these people were, operating on a pro se basis. They were trying to run their own cases because they just didn't have any money. And I was trying to help level the playing field a little bit between machine of Scientology and these people trying to exercise some basic rights under the Constitution here.
Now, the Lisa McPherson Trust is located at 33 North Fort Harrison. Why did you rent that particular building for this purpose?
Well, first I bought the building, not rented it.
Excuse me, rent.
Our intention was not to, well, first our intention was to be close to Scientology in downtown Clearwater. And by close, I mean there are 4 or 5 office buildings in downtown Clearwater which we wanted to be in. And we concluded arrangements in all 4 or 5 of those office buildings to rent space. And in every single instance, the Church of Scientology came in within 20 minutes or 30 minutes of us leaving and sat down with what they call DA packs to the agents or owners of the buildings and explained that, that Minton...
Objection, Your Honor. Objection. We're getting into hearsay here. He hasn't established that he has personal knowledge of these events at all.
Mr. Howie.
Your Honor, this is not being submitted to prove the truth of the matter asserted, but rather what obstacles or frustrations Mr. Minton had in attempting to acquire property for the purpose of downtown Clearwater.
Your Honor, the obstacles that Mr. Minton may have had in acquiring property in downtown Clearwater do not in any way have any probative value on the issue of whether he or any of the other defendants are violating the court's order. We're getting back into the Scientology as the bad guys approach to this instead of sticking to what's really at stake here.
Your Honor, in order to establish bias or prejudice on the part of other witnesses, particularly Heather Brooks, Mr. Folk emphatically cross-examined on the issue of why are you so close to the Church of Scientology. This, in part, is to remedy that effort.
Overruled. Proceed.
Go ahead, and without actually entering into conversations you had, what was the result of your efforts to acquire this property? The other properties not where to be North
Well, we found that despite being eminently qualified financially to lease these office buildings, that there were other extraneous matters that were brought to the attention of the property owners concerning bigoted and hateful activities of the people associated with this Lisa McPherson Trust that were brought to the attention of the property owners.
And as a result, you did acquire this property.
And as a result of that, we were unable to conclude any arrangements to lease office space in any of the buildings in downtown Florida, downtown Clearwater. And so we began to look for a place to buy as the only logical alternative if we wanted to be in downtown Clearwater. The first building that we went into was a Calvary-owned Baptist church building. During the time we were being shown around that building, 3 Scientologists came in and started yelling at the man who was showing us around that Minton is a criminal, Brooks is a criminal, Prince is a criminal. You shouldn't have anything to do with these people. They're terrible people. The second building we looked at was sort of catty corner across the street, and that was the 33 North Fort Harrison building. The time when we were initially being shown the building by the owner, Scott Brower, in the first room that we went into, 7 Scientologists came in the door shouting the same things, led by Ian Shillington, who was the man shouting Nazi go home to Ursula Caberta. And again, they were trying to persuade Mr. Brower to have nothing to do with us because we were terrible people. So, but in any case, we concluded a transaction with Mr. Brower, perfectly acceptable transaction. And then the day before the closing, or the couple of days before the closing, Mr. Shaw had been over to see Mr. Brower a number of times. attempts made to offer twice as much as we were paying for the building if they would not sell it to us, if he would not sell it. But he had made a contract and he stuck to it, and I was very pleased and proud to have done a business transaction with such a distinguished man.
Now, why, obviously, we've noticed that people on your side of the courtroom have been wearing white roses. Why are you wearing white roses?
Well, in Nazi Germany, there was a small group of students called the White Rose Society who stood up to Hitler in a way which no one else in Germany was doing, in a public and very vocal way. And unfortunately, all of the students in this movement were killed by the Nazis. But in memory of that group, in our own fight against a totalitarian institution similar to the Nazis, we wear these.
Now, you have indicated already that you're an outspoken opponent of the Church of Scientology. Have you received any affirmative recognition or awards for your opposition to the Church of Scientology?
Yes. Yesterday, I think it was, there was a lot of discussion about Europe and Scientology's involvement there. In June of 2000, I was given what's called the Alternative Charlemagne Award by a group calling itself the European American Citizens Commission on Human Rights and Religious Freedom. And the purpose of that award was to recognize, my stand for human rights and religious freedom in the world, particularly in the arena of organizations opposed by Scientology who were deprived of their own religious freedom.
And we saw a videotape earlier in this hearing of the arrival of Ursula Caberta at the Tampa airport and the Church of Scientology reaction to it. What was that incident all about?
Well, the key thing that Scientology has been very concerned about, other than our mere presence in Clearwater, is that we have established very strong ties to not only to the European anti-cult community, but particularly strong ties to the governments in Germany and France concerning our fights against the Scientology abuses and deceptions. Mrs. Caberta, while being merely the head of the state of Hamburg's task force on Scientology, because of its importance, and first as a state, and because of the important work which that task force does, many of the other states within Germany follow the lead of the Hamburg government working office on Scientology. And therefore, Scientology views most of their problems in Germany as a direct result of Mrs. Caberta's very good work as far as she is concerned, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the German government is concerned. Finding ways to keep Scientology technology out of the business community in the way that it has been done in a very deceptive manner.
Now, I want to review the remaining allegations in the orders to show cause with you. I'm going to do that in chronological order. And I want to start out with the so-called spy camera incident on December 4th of 2000, which appears in the order to show cause dated January 4th, 2001, at paragraphs 3A and 3B. Now, just by way of introduction, the allegation against you is that on December 4th, 2000, first John Merritt, and then you climbed the ladder, that you grabbed and twisted the spy camera, and you took photographs of it. The police officer warned both of you to stop doing what you're doing and to leave, and that you blocked a bread delivery at an entrance to the Clearwater Bank building. Now, you have seen the videotape of that incident, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Now, before climbing the ladder to photograph the camera, before you and Mr. Merritt climbed the ladder to investigate the camera, what were your own observations concerning the camera and the surrounding area of the wall of the camera?
just as to the location of the camera.
Location of the camera and anything that was pertinent to the camera. What were your basic observations of the camera in the immediate area?
Well, in the immediate area, there was nothing happening. Other than people standing on the sidewalk ready to have a look at this camera, which was, at the time, we started to look at it, it was sitting up against the Motomco building, also known as the Rat Bag building. But with a conduit, metal conduit going along the side of the Motomco or Rat Bay building, and then attached permanently to the Scientology building. But what was also clear is that where the conduit coming out of the junction box went to a like a circular thing that I guess is used to adjust or move that camera and the part of the conduit, the U-shaped kind of conduit coming into it, so it could move. And when Mr. Merrick first went up there, when he first went up the ladder, to take a picture or several pictures, he, put his hand on the bottom of this camera and moved it. This was a one-handed job. He could have done it with one finger. There was no rigidity whatsoever in the movement of that camera.
Did you notice anything hanging off or attached to this junction box, apart from the conduit?
A wire going down into the joint phone box.
And who first brought this junction box to your attention?
It was John Merritt.
Now,
he brought it. I mean, I'd known about the junction box for some time. The camera up there.
well, who first advised you that there was a camera there?
I think it was Grady Ward sometime previously.
Now, the videotape shows you photographing the spy camera. What was your purpose in doing that?
John said Stacy wanted some pictures for putting in an order to show cause. And, one of them to present in this particular case.
And why did you and Mr. Merrick feel it was necessary to use a ladder to do this?
It's just we were using a Olympus D600 digital camera, which has a very, very minor zoom capability. From the ground, you couldn't get a good picture of the camera, of the junction box with the two cameras contained inside. So it was necessary to get up to it so you could actually take a straight-on picture to see what it was.
Now, the videotape shows Mr. Merrick going up the ladder before you did. From your own observations that day, what did you see Mr. Merrick do before you climbed the ladder?
He moved the camera and proceeded to take a picture and failed at taking a picture. And, I said, I know how to use the camera, I'll come up and do it. The problem was he wasn't familiar with the macro mode on the camera, and as we were close to the camera, the focus would not lock in unless we shifted into macro mode, and I knew how to do that, so I said, I'll go up the ladder and take the pictures.
Now, you described that how Mr. Merrick moved the junction box that contained the camera. Did he appear to have any trouble or resistance to pivoting the camera?
None whatsoever. It was perfectly flexible.
Do you know why he moved the camera?
To get a straight-on picture of it, an eye-level, straight-in picture, because it's not, the cameras themselves that are in there are not particularly visible as cameras. They're designed to be spy-like. They're designed to be, they're sitting in a junction box, you know, they're there for a reason, for spying. You know, they don't exactly make them obvious.
When
Mr. Minton, hold on, Mr. Minton. Go on, yes, sir. No, I'm just gonna look at some stuff down there. Hold on.
Fremont has only one independent street. Yeah, just in case.
Your Honor, for the information report, I will be using Exhibit 7 shortly.
You're gonna be using this?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, that's what I wanted to go through and get that. Let's do this. We've been going for about an hour. Let's just take a short 10-minute break, then we'll switch to this. And Mr. Minton, you're on the stand. If you want to use the restrooms, there are restrooms in the jury room. We'll come back and we'll get started.